A Nightmare Marriage, Victoria's shocking story of survival. Imagine a perfect family that's hiding the most shocking secrets, a tale of betrayal, manipulation, and survival that will leave you questioning everything you know about trust. This story follows Victoria, an experienced skydiver whose life takes a heart-stopping turn when her own husband becomes the greatest threat to her existence. If you love true stories that keep you on the edge of your seat, smash that upvote button and follow along. This account will take you deep into a journey that seems almost unbelievable, but every single moment is true. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think as we unravel this incredible story of survival against all odds. Buckle up, because this isn't just another story. This is a real-life thriller that proves truth is often stranger than fiction. Don't miss a single moment. Hit that subscribe button and get ready for a tale that will shock you to your core. It was an ordinary sunny day in Wiltshire County when Victoria Cilliers, an experienced skydiver with over 1,500 jumps to her credit, prepared for what seemed like a routine descent. The wind whispered against her face as she readied herself, her muscles remembering the countless jumps she had made before. Little did she know that this particular jump would become a pivotal moment in her life, forever etched in her memory. As she deployed her parachute, a sense of impending doom crept into her consciousness. The lines tangled unexpectedly, and her reserve parachute failed to open properly. In those heart-stopping moments of free fall, Victoria's mind raced with thoughts of her children, the two young souls who depended on her, who would be left behind if something went terribly wrong. The ground rushed up to meet her with terrifying speed, each second feeling like an eternity. Born in 1977 in Edinburgh, Victoria was the daughter of a retired military officer who had instilled in her a sense of discipline and adventure from an early age. Her childhood was marked by an extraordinary energy and a relentless pursuit of challenges. Sports became her playground and physical activity her primary language of expression. At just 16, she experienced her first skydive, a moment that would define her future and ignite a passion that would consume her professional and personal life. Academically driven and athletically gifted, Victoria pursued a degree in physical therapy at the University of Glasgow while simultaneously honing her skills as a skydiver. Her dual passions converged when she joined the British Army, serving as a physical therapist and quickly rising through the ranks. By the age of 30, she had achieved the rank of captain, a testament to her dedication and professional excellence. Within the parachuting community, Victoria was renowned. She wasn't just a skydiver, she was an instructor certified by the Army National Parachuting Association, a freefall coach who mentored countless individuals in the art of aerial navigation. Her professional life was a carefully balanced equation of medical expertise and aerial adventure, earning her both respect and a comfortable income. Yet, beneath the veneer of professional success, Victoria's personal life told a different story. The same precision and passion that defined her career seemed elusive in her personal relationships. As she plummeted through the air on that fateful day in Wiltshire, the complexity of her life hung in suspense, a metaphorical freefall as dramatic as her physical descent, with questions swirling about how such an experienced professional could find herself in such a perilous situation. In 2008, Victoria's first marriage to a medical colleague quickly fell apart after just 1 year. Her life took an unexpected turn in mid-2009 when Emil Cilliers entered the hospital where she worked. Recovering from a skiing accident, he became a patient in one of Victoria's therapy sessions. Their connection was instant and powerful, and before long, Emil became her second husband, a man she believed was the love of her life. Emil Cilliers was born in 1980 in South Africa to a wealthy British family who owned a successful construction company. Growing up with wealthy parents, he was spoiled from a young age. His family gave him everything he wanted, never setting boundaries or teaching him about responsibility. Despite having 2 children together, Emil never married Nicoline. He constantly avoided family responsibilities, claiming he wasn't ready for a committed life. His behavior was consistently unfaithful. He had multiple affairs and made little effort to hide them. Somehow, he always managed to talk his way back into Nicoline's life, convincing her to stay with him despite his repeated betrayals. In the early 2000s, Emil decided to move to the United Kingdom. His dream was to build a successful career and eventually bring Nicoline and their children to join him. He arrived on a work visa, but his plans quickly unraveled. Finding stable work proved difficult, and he began taking random jobs to survive. To cut costs, he moved between different women's homes and reduced his communication with his family back in South Africa. Whenever Nicolene asked him to return home or bring their children to the UK, Emil always refused. He would complain about financial difficulties and claim he couldn't support them. Yet, his actions told a different story. He continued to make expensive purchases and lavish gifts on his various romantic partners. His promises were empty, his commitment non-existent, and his true character was slowly being revealed through a pattern of deceit and self-serving behavior. For some time, Nicolene had received financial support from Emil's parents to care for their children. Everything changed during a conversation with Emil's mother, who revealed a shocking truth. Emil had recently married a British woman named Carly Taylor. Stunned by this revelation, Nicolene immediately called Emil, demanding an explanation for his secret marriage. Emil smoothly explained that his marriage to Carly was purely a legal arrangement, a strategy to secure permanent residency in the United Kingdom. Initially, Nicolene believed his story and tried to stay calm. However, as time passed, she realized Emil had no genuine intention of bringing her and their children to the UK. Determined to make Emil take responsibility, she made a brave decision. With a single suitcase and her 2 children, Nicolene flew to the United Kingdom, hoping to reconnect their family. When Nicolene arrived, she discovered that, heartbroken and devastated, Nicolene left in tears. Emil was then forced to explain the situation to his wife, Carly. However, true to his manipulative nature, he crafted a distorted narrative. He portrayed Nicolene not as a struggling mother seeking support, but as a troublemaker and a threat to their relationship. His version of events painted himself as the victim, carefully avoiding any admission of his own repeated betrayals. Emil's marriage to Carly lasted approximately 6.5 years, but it was far from happy. His pattern of infidelity continued unchanged. Despite having 2 children together, he consistently cheated on Carly with multiple women he encountered. A disturbing pattern emerged across his relationships. Nicolene, Carly, and later Victoria would all describe Emil's same problematic behavior. He would persistently demand physical intimacy, showing no consideration for his partner's physical or emotional well-being, even pressuring them mere weeks after childbirth. Shortly after marrying Carly, Emil joined the British Armed Forces. He signed a contract with the Army Physical Training Corps, essentially becoming a military fitness instructor. This position provided him with a respectable rank and a comfortable salary. In 2009, a skiing accident brought him to the hospital where he would meet Victoria, the next chapter in his complicated romantic history. Breaking his ankle would unexpectedly lead him to the woman who would become his next wife, setting the stage for a relationship that would dramatically change both their lives. During his hospital stay, Emil met Victoria, who was working as a physical therapist. Their connection was instant and powerful. Despite Victoria being 3 years older, age didn't matter. She was still healing from a recent divorce, and Emil seemed determined to comfort her in every possible way. At first, Victoria had no idea that Emil was still legally married to another woman. Similarly, Emil's wife Carly was unaware that he was secretly meeting with a divorce lawyer and preparing paperwork to end their marriage. When the truth finally emerged, Emil tried to shift blame for their failed marriage onto Carly. In response, she decided to reveal something crucial to Victoria: the existence of Nicolene and Emil's 2 other children from previous relationships. Victoria was completely shocked by this revelation. Her seemingly perfect partner had a complex past involving 2 previous relationships and 4 children. Despite this, Emil passionately declared his undying love for her, insisting she was unlike anyone he had ever loved before. These words might have seemed hollow coming from someone else, but Victoria had already fallen deeply in love with him. Surprisingly, Victoria chose to forgive Emil's lies and accept him completely, embracing all his flaws. Over time, an unexpected relationship developed between Victoria and Carly. Not only did they become civil towards each other, but they actually formed a genuine friendship. Carly's trust in Victoria was so complete that she even allowed her to look after her own children, a testament to their unusual bond. In 2010, Emil finalized his divorce and quickly proposed to Victoria. She happily accepted, and they celebrated with a lavish wedding. They moved into a spacious home in Wiltshire, a property Victoria purchased using money she inherited from her parents after their passing. Their family began to grow in 2011 with the birth of their daughter, April. and expanded further in 2015 with the arrival of their son Ben. From the outside, they appeared to be a devoted family, spending significant time together and seeming genuinely happy. Victoria, passionate about skydiving, even introduced Emil to the sport. He embraced it fully, earning his own skydiving instructor certification and specializing in packing both main and reserve parachutes. This additional skill provided an extra source of income for their family, making their life seem picture perfect on the surface. To Victoria, her marriage initially seemed like a perfect dream. They had 2 beautiful children. Emil was recently promoted to sergeant, and their life appeared flawless to everyone around them. However, this ideal picture was merely a facade. Emil quickly grew bored with their seemingly peaceful family life and began seeking out affairs with other women, showing little regard for Victoria's feelings. Despite his repeated infidelities, Emil had a manipulative way of winning Victoria back. Whenever caught, he would dramatically fall to his knees, swearing that skydiving had been Victoria's passion since her youth. As an instructor with the Army Parachute Association, she had completed an impressive 2,500 jumps by early 2015 with an impeccable safety record. During her pregnancy, she had been forced to take a break from the sport she loved so deeply, which left her feeling incomplete. In early March 2015, she gave birth to her second child, a son, and was eager to return to skydiving. On April 1st, Emil surprised Victoria by booking a tandem skydive for them both. Victoria was overjoyed, seeing this as a thoughtful gesture from her husband, a potential way to reintroduce excitement into their routine. The jump was initially scheduled for April 4th, and the couple arrived at the skydiving base with their older daughter. However, unfavorable weather conditions, strong winds, and heavy clouds prevented the plane from taking off, forcing them to postpone the jump until the next day, Easter Sunday. Unexpectedly, Emil informed Victoria that he would not be joining her for the jump. He claimed urgent matters had come up and insisted they leave the children at home to avoid tiring them out. With no alternative childcare available, Victoria accepted his suggestion. On the morning of April 5th, Emil wished her luck as she set off, staying behind with their 4-year-old daughter and 5-week-old son. The skydiving conditions that day were far from perfect. Victoria's group had to wait several hours before receiving clearance for takeoff. Despite the delays and uncertain weather, Victoria remained in high spirits, eagerly anticipating the jump she had been dreaming about since the birth of her son. Little did she know that this seemingly routine skydive would become a pivotal moment that would change her life forever. Around 3 p.m., a plane carrying 12 skydivers rose into the sky. One by one, the skydivers began their descent, with Victoria Cilliers being the last to jump. She cherished every moment of her fall, feeling the familiar rush of wind and freedom that had drawn her to skydiving for so many years. But as she prepared to deploy her parachute, something went terribly wrong. When Victoria pulled the main parachute cord, she immediately sensed that something was amiss. The parachute lines had become hopelessly tangled, and no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't untangle them. Thinking quickly, she cut away the main parachute and attempted to deploy her reserve chute. To her horror, the reserve parachute only partially opened, extending just about a third of the way. Suddenly, Victoria found herself spinning wildly through the air at a terrifying speed. In those moments, she wasn't thinking about her own potential death. Her mind was filled with thoughts of her husband. The parachute had been carefully checked at least 10 times by multiple experienced experts. The possibility of such a massive mistake was virtually impossible. The lead skydiving instructor found these parachute failures deeply troubling. Believing this was more than a simple accident, he personally contacted the local authorities to report a potential attempted murder. At almost the exact same moment, Victoria's best friend Caroline was also reaching out to the police. She had her own suspicions and didn't hesitate to name a specific suspect. Caroline was deeply worried about the suspicious accident and told investigators that Victoria's husband, Emil, could be involved in the incident. According to Caroline, Victoria and Emil's marriage might have looked perfect from the outside, but in reality, Emil was a manipulative and toxic partner. She believed Victoria was so deeply in love that she had been blind to numerous warning signs about her husband's true character. The police took these claims seriously and began a full investigation, with the damaged parachutes becoming crucial pieces of evidence. Victoria's recovery was surprisingly quick. She spent less than a month in the hospital and credited her rapid healing To Emil's seemingly endless support, he appeared to be the perfect spouse, constantly by her side, helping with the children and taking care of household responsibilities. His behavior seemed so loving and supportive that Victoria felt incredibly lucky to have him. When police officers arrived at their home to speak with Emil, Victoria was completely taken by surprise. To her shock, Emil didn't resist at all. He willingly went to the police station to answer their questions, appearing calm and cooperative. However, he knew the detectives would soon uncover text messages revealing his numerous romantic relationships. Hoping to control the narrative, Emil decided to be proactive. During questioning, he admitted to being unhappy in the marriage. He blamed Victoria for not meeting his needs and claimed he had been planning to leave her for some time. Most shockingly, he revealed he had been in a 6-month relationship with Stephanie Galler, an Austrian ski instructor, and was even planning to marry her in the near future. His confession painted a picture of a man who had completely abandoned any pretense of loyalty or commitment. Emil openly discussed his financial troubles during questioning. He admitted to owing substantial amounts of money to various lenders who charged extremely high interest rates. A self-proclaimed gambling addict, he frequently placed bets and consistently lost money, causing his debts to spiral out of control. He even suggested that the attempt on Victoria's life might have been a warning from his creditors, attempting to shift blame away from himself. Investigators quickly realized that while Emil did indeed have massive financial difficulties, his explanation about the parachute incident sounded completely unconvincing. What raised even more suspicion was Emil's unusual behavior of personally checking Victoria's parachutes and refusing to let them out of his sight. He would even take the parachute equipment with him when going to the restroom, a detail that seemed extremely suspicious to the investigators. These unusual actions led the police to detain Emil for more intensive questioning. Meanwhile, officers visited Victoria at home to share the concerning details they had uncovered. They discussed the suspicions raised by her best friend Caroline and the lead skydiving instructor, presenting a picture that was dramatically different from the loving husband Victoria believed she knew. Victoria was completely shocked and deeply shaken by these revelations. She honestly admitted that her marriage was far from perfect. She acknowledged Emil's repeated affairs and his ongoing financial problems. She also revealed a painful truth. Emil barely spent time with their children and had shown little excitement when their youngest son was born. Despite all of these red flags, Victoria still struggled to believe that her husband could ever want to harm her. At first glance, Emil seemed to lack a clear motive for wanting to get rid of Victoria. She had always forgiven his infidelities and continued to support him financially, giving him unrestricted access to her bank account. Even as his debts grew, Emil maintained a comfortable lifestyle, spending money freely without restraint. Victoria had actually taken careful legal precautions to protect her assets. The house she purchased before their marriage and her savings account were both designated to go to her sister in her will. If Victoria were to pass away, her sister would become the children's guardian, effectively preventing Emil from accessing any inheritance. However, investigators discovered a potential motive that changed everything. Victoria had a life insurance policy worth nearly £200,000. If she died, Emil would receive this substantial payout. Victoria was well aware of her husband's financial irresponsibility and had deliberately structured her will to prevent him from squandering her assets. This life insurance policy became a significant point of interest in the investigation, presenting a potential financial motivation for Emil's suspected actions. Emil was already making plans for a future with his new girlfriend, which included moving to another country. As investigators continued their questioning, Victoria suddenly recalled a crucial detail about the day of the skydive. Their daughter had needed to use the restroom, and Emil had taken her, carrying Victoria's backpack with him during that time. The jump had been postponed due to bad weather conditions, which meant all equipment needed to be returned according to standard safety protocols. However, Emil had convinced Victoria to leave the gear in a locker, arguing it would save time the next morning by avoiding equipment check-in lines. Despite this suspicious behavior, Victoria still found it hard to believe her husband could intentionally harm her. She insisted he was only gone for about 5 minutes, hardly enough time to do anything to the parachute equipment. During her interview, Victoria's best friend Caroline shared a terrifying incident that had occurred just a week before the failed skydive. Victoria had narrowly escaped death due to a dangerous gas leak in their home. The night before the incident, Emil had claimed he needed to stay overnight at the military barracks, leaving Victoria alone with their 2 young children. The next morning, Victoria noticed a strong gas smell in their home. She called Emil to inform him, but he dismissed her concerns, telling her she was imagining things and should go ahead and start cooking without worry. Fortunately, Victoria wasn't easily convinced. She decided to call the gas company, and when the technician arrived, they discovered a serious gas leak at the valve inside a cabinet near the stove. What caught the investigators' attention were the unusual scratch marks on the valve nut. These marks suggested someone had deliberately tampered with it using a wrench. Given Emil's reputation for being clumsy with tools, the marks appeared to be his own handiwork. The valve even showed traces of blood, indicating he had likely cut himself while hastily working on it. What was most suspicious was that Emil hadn't bothered to clean up the evidence. Investigators believed he had intentionally loosened the nut just enough to cause a slow, potentially deadly gas leak. The incident seemed to be another calculated attempt to harm Victoria, carefully planned but carelessly executed. As more details emerged, a disturbing pattern began to take shape. Each piece of evidence painted a more sinister picture of Emil, a man capable of plotting against his wife, willing to risk her life for his own benefit. The gas leak, the parachute incident, his financial troubles, and his plans with a new girlfriend were all connecting to form a chilling narrative of potential murder. When the initial plan failed, Emil quickly devised a new scheme involving parachutes, determined to leave for Austria with his new partner Stephanie in May. Despite mounting suspicious evidence and compelling witness testimonies, Victoria continued to defend her alleged attacker, steadfastly insisting that her husband could never intend to harm her. Investigators strategically decided to reveal the harsh reality of Emil's duplicitous life. They presented Victoria with incriminating messages to Stephanie in which he had virtually proposed a new life together. These communications exposed his deep regrets about their marriage and his overwhelming desire to start fresh. According to relationship psychology studies, approximately 15 to 20% of married individuals contemplate leaving their spouse through dramatic or calculated means. The revelations became increasingly devastating. Emil had been engaged in extensive infidelity, maintaining profiles on multiple dating apps and even attending speed dating events to orchestrate casual encounters. The most profound betrayal emerged when Victoria learned that her husband had been simultaneously cheating with his ex-wife Carly, a woman with whom she had previously shared a seemingly friendly relationship, particularly when coordinating weekend custody arrangements for their children. Victoria reluctantly acknowledged that the gas leak incident had always seemed suspicious, but she had systematically dismissed her intuitive concerns. She had convincingly rationalized to herself that Emil would never deliberately endanger their children. Forensic psychologists note that such denial is a common coping mechanism in cases of domestic manipulation, with victims often protecting themselves emotionally by minimizing potential threats. The investigation revealed critical timing discrepancies. Emil claimed to have been in the restroom for merely 5 minutes with her parachute, but evidence suggested he was absent for nearly 3 times that duration. When confronted, he fabricated an explanation about their daughter taking an extended bathroom break. Moreover, Victoria discovered that Emil had been spending substantial amounts of money on his mistresses using her credit cards, consistently deflecting accusations by claiming scammer interventions. During the trial, which commenced in November 2017, a meticulous forensic reenactment demonstrated that a skilled individual would require approximately 10 minutes to sabotage both parachutes and repack them undetectingly. Statistical data from criminal investigations suggest that only 2 to 3% of attempted spousal murders involve such calculated, sophisticated planning. Emil adamantly denied all accusations throughout the proceedings, maintaining his innocence and dramatically claiming he would never harm the mother of his children. However, the cumulative evidence painted a stark picture: multiple attempted harm incidents, extensive infidelity, and a calculated approach to potentially eliminating his wife. The trial would ultimately become a landmark case demonstrating the complex psychological dynamics of domestic betrayal and attempted murder. Emil's defense strategy took a manipulative turn, attempting to cast doubt on Victoria's mental state. He strategically alleged that the courtroom dynamics revealed a chilling psychological phenomenon of trauma bonding. Victoria appeared almost entranced by Emil's narrative, repeatedly defending him and echoing his claims of innocence. Even when presented with overwhelming evidence of his multiple infidelities and calculated attempts to harm her, she struggled to break free from his psychological manipulation. Experts in domestic abuse note that such profound psychological control can take years to overcome, with victims often protecting their abusers even when faced with direct evidence of their crimes. On June 15, 2018, justice prevailed. Emile was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life imprisonment with the potential for parole after 18 years. The verdict marked a turning point for Victoria. In the weeks following the trial, she filed for divorce and began the challenging journey of reclaiming her life. Her story became a powerful testament to surviving domestic psychological manipulation, highlighting the complex dynamics of abusive relationships and the long path to personal liberation. Victoria's story is more than just a tale of survival. It's a powerful reminder of the hidden dangers that can lurk within seemingly perfect relationships. Her journey reveals the critical importance